Welcome, superstar. In this video, I'm going to talk about the magic of pre-suasion, a concept by Robert Cialdini. Robert Cialdini, in my opinion, is the person who knows the most in the world, I would say, about influence and persuasion. In this video, I'm going to share what I learned from attending a presentation that he gave at the National Speakers Association a couple of years ago. It was such a compelling presentation, and I took so many great notes that I wanted to share it with you because it's still on my mind. If you've never heard of Robert Cialdini before, then he's most well known for his book, Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. This was a book that was really foundational for me as I was learning about consulting, coaching, selling, and speaking. Now, on top of that, he's written other books as well, including a book called Yes and another book called Pre-suasion. Now, the concepts that he talked about a few years ago at the NSA were from that book, Pre-suasion, and he also sprinkled in some concepts from Influence. So this is what I picked up from him, and I hope that it's as compelling for you as it was for me. So the first concept is that of reciprocity. So when you want to be influential with somebody, there's a basic concept that almost every human, it's kind of built into our DNA, which is that we like to give when we receive. So you can use this concept to your favor, to your advantage, by giving something to someone that you want to influence, by giving them a gift or giving them a compliment or giving them something of value so that when they receive that, they have the natural desire to give back. So one way to use this to have more influence is that if you notice, sometimes people will say, oh, thank you so much for something, and we play it off like, oh, no big deal, it was no problem. Well, Robert says, instead of doing that, let them know that it was kind of a big deal. Let them know that you went out of your way to help them. It doesn't have to be in a arrogant or condescending way. You could just say, if somebody says, oh, thank you so much for picking up my lunch for me on the way in today. You can say, yeah, I had to, fight a whole bunch of traffic, but I'm really glad that I was able to do that for you. So somebody might say, oh, how can I repay you for that? Would you like me to pick up a coffee for you this afternoon? So it's just a little thing, and it's a little technique, and you can use it in order to create more rapport and reciprocity with people in your business, in your personal life, in your family, wherever. Another line that he used and I wrote it down word for word because it was so good. He said, oh, it was my pleasure. I know you do the same for me. And that opens the door for someone to potentially do a favor for you. The second concept is that of scarcity. One of the things that Robert shared is that human beings tend to be more loss averse than they are pleasure seeking. And so what that means is that they're more likely to take action based on not wanting to lose something than based on wanting to gain something. So let's say you're talking to someone and you are selling something and you're in a sales conversation. You may want to focus on what they will miss out on if they don't buy the thing versus what they'll get if they do buy it. Now, before I get to some of these other examples of ways that you can use persuasion, I invite you to like my video, subscribe to my channel, and if you have an experience of this, if you've used any of this, if you've read Robert's books, I'd love for you to share a comment below. Another concept that helps you be more influential and persuasive is authority. That means positioning yourself instead of down here, up here. Now, what that could look like to position yourself as an authority is have other authorities endorse you or introduce you, or establish your credibility early on in a conversation with somebody. Now, the best way to establish authority, in my opinion, is to have someone else do it. It's a little bit pompous, or it can feel a little bit arrogant if you're tooting your own horn. So it's a lot nicer to have someone else do it. So for example, if you're gonna get up and do a speaking engagement, rather than getting up and introducing yourself, having someone that the audience already respects and trusts introduce you goes a long way toward establishing your authority. Another thing to remember is the principle of consistency. People like to be consistent in their decisions, and they like to be consistent in doing something that they've said they were going to do. For example, at the beginning of a sales conversation, you might ask somebody to tell you, why did you reach out to me? Why did you think that I might be able to help you with this thing? Now, the reason you want to ask that question is they're going to answer it with nice things about you. And once they've said nice things about you, they're more predisposed to be consistent with that by saying yes and moving forward with what you suggest and advise. A very simple and possibly obvious concept is that of liking. If people like you, they're more likely to be led by you, or more likely to trust you and say yes to that which you advise or recommend. How do you get people to like you? Well, one really easy and obvious way is with compliments. Now, the only challenge with compliments is they've got to be sincere and authentic. People can smell the BS. So only give a compliment if it's genuine. Robert also talked about the technique of overselling. Now, what overselling is basically when you open up the conversation and maybe make a joke about some big offering or opportunity, and then you offer something much smaller, more reasonable. So for example, let's say you are offering your coaching services to a potential client. So you could say to a client, now obviously I'm not going to charge you $10,000 for this. Now already what you've done is you've kind of anchored that number $10,000. You've oversold what it is. And now whatever number you bring in from there is going to seem a lot more reasonable. So when you say the program is actually $1,000, oh, well, that seems pretty okay. It's not $10,000. Now, everybody knows about the benefit of social proof and testimonials, but Robert had a really unique take on these. Based on some studies that were done in hotels, he said that testimonials are much more effective when they are very narrowly similar to the person you're targeting. Here's what I mean. So one of the things that Robert did to illustrate this example was basically in a hotel, they would put little placards up that said, "Don't leave the towels on the floor." And what they discovered is if the placard said, "People in this hotel always pick up their towels," people were much more likely to pick up their towels. And if they said in the placard, "People in this room always pick up their towels," their people were even more likely to pick up the towels, meaning the more specific the testimonial or the social proof, the more valuable it was and the more influential it was on people's behavior. And then finally, the technique of pre-suasion itself. Basically, he used the analogy that when you paint a wall, primer helps the paint stick. Pre-suasion is about applying primer to an influential conversation. It's about helping that conversation stick. And so what that means is that seeding the conversation early on with things that are going to make that conversation stickier. For example, if you're looking to have somebody try something new, you might seed the conversation with the question, "Are you an adventurous person? Are you open to trying something new? Would you be willing to take a small risk?" And just by seeding the conversation with that question makes people more likely to take a chance, be adventurous, or try something new on the backside. I hope this was interesting for you, as interesting as it was for me when I first saw it. Now, if you're interested in this topic about influence and you're concerned a little bit about being manipulative or not being genuine, then check out my 2 videos about the power of influence versus manipulation. I lay out all the different ways that manipulation happens and how to avoid it. Enjoy.